class. Thanks for coming down here on a Saturday. It's a little chillier today, it seems like, than it has been the last couple days. But spring is coming. We're almost there. But even though we are almost spring, it's a perfect time to get the lawn going. We can still have some frost coming up. It's not going to hurt anything. So I'm hoping we'll kind of get the thought process started here today. So I'll start with a couple disclaimers with this class like I always do. I'm extremely OCD, especially with my grass. So just because I choose to walk out and, I don't quite hand clip it, but just because I have issues doesn't mean you have to, so you can take this as far as you want to go. I will say this, I'm an organic gardener, so I don't use any chemical stuff on my grass at all, and it's not to make anybody feel guilty. It just is what it is. I quit doing it probably 20 years ago, and I will never do it again. I'm worried about as I see a dog in the back, my kids. I'm an old dad. I got a 10 and a 13-year-old that are out in my grass all the time. Wildlife, birds, I can go on. And I think the newspapers, the televisions, a lot of groups I hear complaining about our turf. It's not the grass, it's what people tend to put on it that is the issue, especially if we're right by stream, lake, sound, ocean, water of any kind. So kind of think about those things is all I'm going to say. I'm not going to try to make anybody feel guilty. I think sometimes when you're starting out, you might have to go the chemical route, and then you can swap. You know, you're not going to kill buttercup and horsetail and some brutal weeds with anything organic whatsoever. So that's going to be the hard part, is starting out, maybe to get it back to square one, and then we can kind of fix it down the road. We'll talk about that quite a bit today. So I'm hoping everybody got the sheet. I tried to keep this as brief as possible. It's up to 2 pages now, but that's not too bad considering some of mine are 6. The reason I kind of did this, and I actually number this one, is because I think a lot of folks go out this time of year, and the first thing is my lawn looks tired, I'm going to go get some fertilizer. And that's not the end of the world, but to be brutally honest with you, you're feeding the moss before anything else, and you're feeding your weeds, and then whatever's left, the grass is going to get. So if you're going to start the season out, feeding is absolutely the most important thing here coming out of winter. But I would always attack the moss, and I would make my decisions on weeds before I went and grabbed my bag of fertilizer, if that makes sense. So hopefully this will kind of get you a battle plan going. So first is always moss. It's an evil creature that runs through the Northwest. We're not going to change it. It's been around for 300 million years, and it's going to be around for another 300 million years. So moss is what it is. I will tell you, my yard in Everett, I have just a yard like most of you. 20 years ago, it was brutal. I could not get rid of the moss whatsoever. I've got it down to where it's just growing to me where it should, in shady little edges of beds, maybe where it's a little wetter in the wintertime. I can deal with that, but it is not everywhere, and that's because I've changed the pH of my soil, okay? Grass loves alkaline or neutral soil. Moss does not, and we have all acid soil around here, so if you go home and take a pH meter, stick it in your turf, I bet you're going to be acidic, okay? Lime will help fix that down the road. So I get in the yearly habit, or twice a year a lot of times, of applying lime. Now I have less moss to begin with that I've got to treat. So when we're going to treat moss, because I'm guessing who's got moss right now coming out of winter, everybody raise their hands, Steve. We've got really 2 choices. We can go to a granulated bagged product like this, Moss Max. So that's ferrous iron sulfate. I put that in my spreader. I go whip it along with the lawnmower. I broadcast it everywhere. It turns my moss black. Okay, you've seen that. Probably most of you have used an iron-based moss killer. There's nothing wrong with that, except I would caution you to be real careful. So I made this mistake years ago, and I got little orange spots on my patio, and I have one on my sidewalk, and I have one here. That stains, rust, it's iron. So be really careful when you get to the edge of where you're working, and don't get it on your deck, wood, sidewalk, concrete, any of that business, or you will have a small orange spot for all eternity, because I still have them. So my wife always points them out. There you go. If I want to go something that's non-staining, and this is something I think a lot of people buy, I use it on my roof. I could spray my RV, I could spray my house siding, I could spray it anywhere. It's not going to hurt anything. But this is a potassium soap, a different form of moss killer that doesn't stain. Okay, this bottle doesn't have a huge coverage is the problem. I think some people look at the price and they're like, that sounds great, but I need to cover 5,000 square feet. much more economical to do it that way versus spraying a liquid. But if we have a small area or you're worried about the staining, this does an excellent job. This is what I use on my 3 lawns these days. And I can spray it on grass. I can put it on the ground as long as I don't get it on evergreen plants. We don't want it on foliage. So we want, it's confusing because it's still Moss Max, but this is the potassium soap. Just make sure you get, it's a totally different thing. It's a liquid product versus something I put in my drop spray. Okay. Now the other thing I'll say, because we're going to talk about weeds here next, is this particular thing. So this is what we call lawn weed brew now. It used to be known as Weed Beater FE. Who's into chemistry? I got a degree in chemistry, so that's probably not fair. So Fe is our elemental sign for iron. So this is iron as well, okay? This will kill weeds, a lot of weeds. This is what I use for my weed killer. It's natural. And moss, okay? But it's not going to kill horsetail, buttercup, hard to take care of weeds. But this would honestly be one thing. If you wanted to hook this on my hose, wet my grass down, you would kill your moss and the dandelion, some of the simple lawn weeds, all in one fell swoop. Okay, so this, if you read the label real close, it says lichens, algae, mosses, and a lot of broadleaf weeds. So this weed beater, or lawn, I can still call it Weed Beater FE, lawn weed brew, might be a good choice as far as a moss killer and doing your weeds as well. Okay. So I mentioned lime, which we'll bring back up here when we get to repair job, but this is what changes my pH. Who puts lime on their lawn right now? I do usually twice a year, for sure once. If I broadcast out, this doesn't hurt anything. It's all natural. I want it to rain. I want it in the soil, not on the top. So it's a great thing to do here in spring, let Mother Nature wash it in for you. But you will see a huge difference, like I said, versus an alkaline soil lawn versus acid soil lawn. There's no way I can look at a picture on your phone and tell you if you have one or the other. It's a soil chemistry thing. We would test the pH. But if I get that pH up out of the acid range and towards neutral or slightly alkaline, the grass is going to flourish and you will minimize your moss that you have to deal with forever. So this isn't once. This is every rainy season. I try to do it March, September, twice a year. Broadcast it out on your spreader. The bags cover a massive amount of area. If you don't have if you have a small lawn, save the bag in the garage. You got the whole year's worth, kind of thing. So if we get in the habit of doing that, I think you're going to see a huge difference and not have to treat as much moss year to year coming out, especially coming out of winter. Okay. So before we do weeds, we got any questions on moss, real quick?
How many square foot?
So this will do, I always love bags because it's always going to say up to, the reason I'll just say this, the reason I choose this specific lime, it's made by Espoma Organics called Lightning Lime. If you saw the bag, big old lime green, because that's the only bag I've ever seen that actually on the back says, if you use this many pounds and this many square feet, this is how much I'm raising my pH. So this is the only thing I've ever seen that puts its money where its mouth is, so to speak. It's not this nebulous like, oh, throw the bag out. Well, what's it going to do? Do I need 2 bags, 1 bag, 3 bags? You don't know. But I could look at that and say, I have 2,000 square feet. I checked my pH. It's 5.8. I need to raise it at least a point, if not more. Here's how much I need to make that happen. Okay? Because again, I'm not going to hurt anything with lime. We put it on our vegetable garden. I put it on my lilacs. I put it on a lot of stuff in the yard, but absolutely turf is a huge benefit. Okay, change the pH. Yes?
If you're going to control moss with the moss mat,
yep.
You do the lime at the same time or after?
Yeah, so again, let's moss first, we're going to do weeds, and then after all that, we're going to decide on demolition here in a minute, and that's why if we put this stuff down and we choose to thatch or do something else, we just threw it all in the yard waste, now we got to do it again, if that makes sense. So we're gonna wait on that for a second. Okay, so moss is done. Weeds, again, I mentioned a few different weeds. When we talk about weeds and grass, we really have 2 options. We have what we say post-emergent. If I walk out right now and I see my dandelion sitting there in the lawn, that's a growing weed. I need a post-emergent weed killer to apply to that to kill it. If I don't have any weeds and I don't want any to come up through the soil, I need a pre-emergent. Okay, is that making sense? Those are our two herbicides in a nutshell. With lawns, it's kind of funny because with plants, man has figured out we have monocots, what we call one seed leaf plants, grasses for the main part, and we have dicots, everything else we grow in our yard, our rhodie, the azalea, the trees, and when we look at the seed form, they're all going to start with 2 leaves and not 1. That's how we can get herbicides that will kill a dicot and not a monocot, if that makes sense. Because I've always wondered when I was a kid, like, how could you spray that killer on your lawn and not hurt the lawn but kill everything else? And that's why we were very specific on herbicides. We're not going out with Roundup. We're not getting a non-selective weed killer would kill everything. We got to start over again. So we get one that's safe for turf. Now I mentioned the one I use already, Lawn Weed Brew. You can buy this. I have 2,000 square feet of grass, and this gallon ready to made lasts me 2 years for lawns for spraying weeds. Now you may have nothing but weeds here to start. You're going to need to get a little more, but down the road you don't need very much. It's like every couple of weeks. So there's one. There's one, done. You know, then I never let them go to seed, and I stay ahead of the game. So I'm able to get away with something like the iron-based Lawn Weed Brew. I can, again, kill moss with it, but also the vast majority of our weeds. It does not do buttercup, does not do horsetail, I will tell you right now, but dandelions, clover is pretty good these days, oxalis, a lot of the common things we see in our turf, that will do the job, okay?
What about weedy grasses like pond?
I'm not going to do grasses. Yeah, that's different. I'll show you some stuff for that. So one option A is Weed Beater, Lawn Weed Brew. Weed Beater FE, now known as Lawn Weed Brew. Option B is we kind of go more of the chemical route. Now he brought up a great question because I gave up my OCD-ness for plucking POA and little grasses out when I had children. I don't have time when they're gone. I'll probably crawl around and do the same thing again that I used to do. But the hardest thing to do, and now that we gave you a quick herbicide, is how can I kill one grass and not kill with a grass that I want to keep? That's a really hard problem to have. So a lot of times with that, we have to go a chemical route. There's not going to be anything organic, but we have to be very careful with crabgrass, POA, things like that. This is brand new. If I find it, there it is. This is probably what you're going to want at Wacoma. This is brand new this year. It's called DuraTurf. So this is a pre- and post-emergent weed killer. It's the only one I have up here in the liquid form. So if I spray this out on my lawn today, I will kill weeds that are growing, okay? And I will form a film on the soil that keeps things from coming back. If I have POA, crabgrass growing, it'll probably suppress it a bit, it won't remove it. But if I get this down before it gets going for the season, this will keep it from even germinating in the first place. So sometimes weedy grasses, this is probably the only thing I'm going to have up here today that will kill the grass you don't want and keep the grass that you're trying to keep going, your lawn, okay? So this is a little hard because, again, when I say that word post-emergent, so what's going to happen? I put that down as kill the weeds, I put it down as a pre-emergent, and I want to put seed down. What's going to happen? I got no seed. I mean, it's a way you cannot put seed down if I'm going to use a pre-emergent herbicide. So that's the dilemma in the spring to me especially. I have to overseed, which we'll talk about here, get it established, then I can apply something like that. If I put this down, I can't put seed on my grass for 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 months. So this would be, to me, I think this is a huge benefit in the fall. If you've gone beyond my OCD-ness and you want to attack the annual grasses, when it goes dormant, I could get that down there in the fall and really keep anything from coming up winter to early spring when most of those annual grasses germinate, okay? So DuraTurf's new. We've had these other ones here for a bit, okay? And these are all chemical choices again. If we go Weed Beater Ultra, this would be like if you're probably at the chain store, Lowe's, Home Depot, you see, what do they call it? Ortho makes something. Weed Be Gone, I think they call it. Yeah. And this is very similar to that, but a different formulation. What they won't tell you in Ortho is that it's got to be about 75 degrees for that stuff to work very well. This is about 50 degrees, 45, 50. So I can walk out on a dry day here now in March and get use out of this. I'm not going to get use out of the Weed Be Gone until we get much warmer. And by then, My weeds have populated, they've gone to seed, and I've got too many to probably deal with. So if you're going to go the spray route, Weed Beater Ultra is probably a little more superior than the traditional 2,4-D, okay? Sedge Ender. This is what's replacing this, just for kind of for your discussion. So this is the same idea as this, without pre-emergent control. So this will kill a lot of weedy grasses, sedges, some harder to take care of things like buttercup, horsetail, odds and ends, but also not hurt my lawn. So it will not hurt my lawn. This is called Sedge Ender. Okay.
Say it again, the name?
Sedge Ender. Yeah. And then this is the last. 1 second, we'll get you. This is the last phase here. So this sounds funny, but this is herbicides in a nutshell. I always save this one for last. So that says brush killer. I'm going to kill blackberry. I'm going to kill ivy. I'm going to kill all kinds of nasty stuff. Why would I ever put this on my lawn, right? Because if I look at the fine print, won't harm your grass. Now, a lot of people that I talk to after this class, someone's going to ask me, like, okay, I haven't done anything for a while. I got some grass, but I got a whole bunch of weeds. Where do I even begin? You know, I would hope down the road that you choose to go the natural route, but to me, the brush killer is probably the place to start. You know, don't get it on your plants. Don't get it on the peony, the shrub, the stuff on the borders, or you will nuke whatever it touches. But I can get horsetail, everything that exists in that lawn. Not grasses again, but everything weedy I can get with that brush killer and start from scratch. Now I can go back and make it better that way. You know, why, you know, again, why do we use chemical? What's the other option? Who uses weed and feeds? Well, I shouldn't ask that because somebody's going to raise their hand and I'll make them feel bad. That's the one thing on earth I would like to ban is weed and feeds. Because if I'm going to choose to go the chemical route, half of it's crappy synthetic fertilizer, to be honest with you. The other half's herbicide. And if I'm going to go the chemical route, instead of broadcasting that over my entire property and hoping that that granular hit the weed that I want to kill, I would rather have you get the same thing in a liquid form, because now I can walk around and be very specific on where I want to kill and apply it to and start over again, okay? Instead of just broadcasting the herbicide over the entire lawn and turf area, I can focus it to where I really need it. And once they're gone again, now you're going to have, I think, good luck with some of these other things from keeping them from coming back. Is that kind of making sense? So I'm not trying to, well, I am ripping scouts because I can't stand that stuff. But that's essentially what they've done over the last 50, 60 years. You know, to my dad and the last generation is teach everybody, you just need weed feed. Just get a bag of weed feed. That is the issue with the environment to me. You know, I'm going to stop there because I'm going to get on a soapbox with the weed feed. All right. So this is kind of, to me, there's your weed and feed, modern weed and feed. I just got this in. I finally found something I think will work for us. But this is basically, this is all natural. This is organic corn gluten. Okay, there's nothing chemical in this at all. Has anyone used corn gluten? I'm raising both my hands because I do all the time. So whether I want to put this on my landscape beds and keep weeds from growing, or my lawn, I can use it either way. Does it last forever? No. I need to do this probably spring and fall if I'm going to do it that way. But I finally found an economically packaged bag. It was getting crazy expensive. That this I can put in my spreader and put on my turf area. This bag will do up to 5,000 square feet, so a substantial amount of area. It's lawn food, okay? I don't know that I'm going to use it as a substitute for my regular lawn food, but this will actually keep weeds from germinating. So if I have a clean slate on my lawn with just turf and I want to keep weeds from coming back, this will actually dissolve, make a film on our soil, and do a great job as a pre-emergent. It's not a weed killer. I want to make sure that's clear. I got dandelions and this and that. It's going to do nothing for you except feed them. But if I do get to a clean point and I want to keep it that way, this may be an excellent choice for you to try to keep things from even growing in the first place. Okay? So that's brand new for us this year. I've looked at it for 2 years, and we finally pulled the trigger this year because I already got a bag at my house too. So I'm going to give it a run. All right? So I think we got all the weeds. Has anyone got any questions on weeds? Yes.
If you use the sedge ender,
yeah,
can you reseed after that?
We can. So again, it's just the pre-emergence. I can't put down this. I have a different chemical bag in there. Same idea. As a pre-emergent, I will not get that new seed to grow. So if I have to overseed, which I hope everybody's going to overseed here in a minute, then I'm going to wait on that till the lawn gets established, and I'm okay. Yeah. The other weed killers, I do this one weekend, I do my cleanup, second weekend I'm ready to go. I don't have to worry about any kind of soil problem. Yes.
So I've got a yard that's really wavy, and
Yep.
so my plan is to cut it real close and then use that 3-foot lawn leveling rake with sand and topsoil.
Kind of get it all
Flat
back to
again,
level. Okay.
And then roll it.
Yep.
If I use, and I've got a real Oxalis problem, if I use BK32
Yep.
on it, is that new grass going to come up?
Again, we're not doing it the day we're seeding, but as long as we do this one week, it's not
I
going to
want
have
to
any.
knock out this Oxalis.
No, yeah, not going to have any soil residual, so you'll be fine. Yeah, there's no pre-emergent in any of that. We just have to avoid this. We have to avoid the corn gluten, and we have to probably the iron. You give it a week, you're okay, but we don't want to do again 2 straight days is too much.
So the BK32 is okay.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. That's exactly what I would do. Yes.
So is that corn gluten, would that replace Preen? I've been using Preen.
Yep, absolutely. That would replace the preen. The preen, Amaze, the even older than that, the Naxal, the Casseron, all that nasty stuff that we all used to throw out in the gravel driveway and everything. That replaces that. If, again, you want to go green, pet safe, wildlife, people safe kind of thing, that's the way to go. Yeah, again, it's not going to kill anything that's growing. I want to make sure that's clear because I always have somebody hear something that I didn't say. It just will keep an area clean. If I take the time to weed it or I spray to start fresh again, this will keep it that way.
So if you spray first and then throw that on top of it, so like to kill anything that's going to be growing and then throw that on top of that, would that?
Exactly. Yeah, you spray, let all the weeds fizzle that are growing there, off we go. Then I can apply that on there. Again, not if I'm going to seed. I'm going to wait for it to grow, but they're very specific. I should say this at the beginning of my disclaimers. Always read the package. Speaking from a dumb dude, if it says use this on 2,000 square feet, it's not going to work better because you use twice as much on 1,000 square feet. You're wasting your money. Okay, so read the package because they spend a lot of money and a lot of time. The state of Washington will not allow this stuff to come in unless the label's accurate. So if you read that and say, yes, I understand, I can use this much for this much area and I'm good to go. Yes.
Where does thatching and aerating fit in
We're coming up 1 second on that. Just hold your horses. You got everybody else? Okay. So we've done our moss, we've done our weeds. I'm hoping we have some grass left. Maybe if your moss is extravagant, maybe you have dirt with a little grass, and that's fine. That's what we want. I'm serious. That's what we want. Because now we go to this gentleman's decision here. Do I want to thatch and do I want to aerate? Who's thatched before? I'll raise both my hands. Anybody aerated before? Got a few. Okay. So I've done both. I don't have to aerate very often because I fixed my soil years ago. So we'll do that second. But thatching to me is the best thing you could ever do for your grass coming out of winter. Whether you get I don't know how big your shoulders are. Mine are pretty big, and I got tired of doing this, so I don't use the manual thatch rake anymore. Looks like a Conan the Barbarian weapon kind of. But if you literally drag this and you drag it and you drag it some more, it'll probably take you a whole weekend, and you'll be nice and strong when you're done. That will do it manually. You'll be shocked how much crap will come out of your lawn. Moss, dead grass, the weeds all of it. You're going to go, I can't believe I just packed my yard waste tote 3 straight weeks with the fluff out of my lawn. It should be a massive amount, especially if you haven't done it for a while. The easier thing to do, go down to the rental shop. That's what I do now. I take my Toyota down there and rent one for $50, $60. It'll probably take you an hour, if even that. If you have a couple thousand square feet, maybe you got 4, 5, 10. It's still not going to take you very long to do this. It's a heavy lawnmower. You get a thatch machine. It's basically a heavy lawnmower. I can set my cross cutter down right above the soil. Don't go too deep. Don't go too high. You're going to do a little run, and okay, that looks okay. We'll keep it there. But if I do that one direction, back the other direction, you're going to look out and see probably 6, 8 inches of brown fluff everywhere. Go, what have I done? Then you're going to rake it up and really say, what have I done? Because now I've got brown dirt and a tiny little bit of grass here and there left. And now I got all the junk out. I'm starting over again. And that's how we get the brand new lawn here at spring, is do this and do it hard. Yes?
How can you do it?
So that's, to me, I always do it coming out of winter. And I've done it a couple times in the fall, but I think if you get on the habit, this is a once-a-year thing. I don't have to do this March and September. Lawn time is always right at the end of winter, right going into it. We got rain, we got good weather for it, grass germination, all the rest. One time a year in spring to me is the key because we always are going to have some moss. We're always going to have a little weeds, I think, coming out of winter with the mild temperatures we usually get. Then we can start fresh and have a beautiful lawn for the summer, which I'm guessing is when most of you are probably out enjoying your lawn at that point. I don't think many people are out in December and January laying on the grass catching some rays, right? we could leave that alone in the fall and really focus on the springtime, all right? So thatching, if you rent one, you can rake. You can have a company come do it for you. Call lawn service. A lot of times if you do the cleanup, it's not heavy. It's not like you're raking up heavy soil, heavy racks, anything like that. It's very light, but it's a massive amount. I mean, especially if you haven't done it for a while, I think you're going to be shocked when you see how much junk comes up out of that grass, all right? So try that. To me, the aerating part of it is going to be your choice. If I would say this, if I was out last summer and I tried to keep my grass green, I ran my irrigation, I have a little sprinkler I put on once in a while to keep it green, whatever it is, and I could not, and I was out walking and it's super hard and compacted, especially maybe slopes, then maybe aerating might help you. If anybody golfing here, I'm a golf sucker, so I golf. If everybody aerates at the golf course, spring and fall. I mean, that's because they're keeping their turf in perfect condition. Do we use sand? I would not. In the landscape in my home, or I get compost, unlike the golf course. But that's the reason they're aerating. I take a plug out, I rake the plugs. We're not leaving them down there. You're going to have little ankle breakers everywhere. So we get all that out of there, and we have holes. We top dress with compost. We fill those holes. Now I have fresh soil for the grass to reroot. Now again, I got a brand new lawn that way. That alleviates some of that compaction. Okay, so I don't know that everybody should go home and worry about aerating, to be brutally honest. You would know probably better than me if it's hard, compact, full sun, slope maybe. And again, if you try to water it and that did not work so well last year, then maybe the aerating would help you for sure here going into the summer months. Okay. So thatch, I would try to talk you into aerate. I'll let you guys kind of make your own choices on that. But really think about the thatching here as we go through, because if we kill the moss, we kill the weeds, instead of raking and doing this all 5 times. If we're going to thatch, kill the moss, kill the weeds, thatch the entire thing, you've got one big mess to clean up, and I got a clear slate, okay? I think a lot of people kill the moss and rake it out, and then they spray the weeds and they do that. And then that's like, well, now what do I do? That's also the reason we don't go straight to the fertilizer and the lime. If I'm going to thatch, I'm chopping up the soil surface, I'm aerating. All that good stuff I just spent my money on to put down is now going into the yard waste with my thatch clippings, okay? So try to get them, this again, your own decision, but if you're going to do all of it, moss, weeds, then thatch, then we get to the fun part here with all the new stuff. Yes? Oh, if you went home today, I don't know how bad it's going to rain today or tomorrow. The weed killer is what I'm worried about, not the moss. But if we went home today and got the moss treated, the weed killers, again, if we read our labels, it's going to tell you right on there, rainproof in an hour, rainproof in 4 hours. So if we have an interval to get it sprayed, you could feasibly do the weeds, the moss today or tomorrow. You'll see 2-3 days, it's going to go black, brown, and you're ready to go. Next weekend, boom, there goes your thatch. And immediately I could go back and do the rest of this stuff after I thatch, okay? Yes?
Yeah. What about like fungicide? If you are battling fungus from the.
We'll do that here in a sec. We got that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up. Okay? So thatching and aerating. Now we get to the fun part. The top dress and the overseed. Now, I've got 2 different kinds of seed here. I brought 2 bags in. And this is the first time we've ever done this. But the one thing I hear from customers is, again, water. I don't want to water as much in the summer. Isn't there a different grass I could put in that might root a little bit deeper, maybe be a little coarser? Still a good-looking lawn, but I don't have to spend as much money on the water bill on. That's the new one. If I walk in there and I see this black Sunnyside label, this is our new grass seed. I just got it a couple weeks ago, called Black Beauty. It's a Pacific Northwest mix. So that is a different patented strains from Jonathan Green that root down into the soil 8 to 9 inches. Okay, typical lawn is half of that. So if this is what I'm doing this year in my lawn too. When I do all the same stuff I'm asking you to do, this is exactly what I'm doing next weekend when I'm home. I'm going to overseed with Black Beauty. I tried it out as a sample last year. Was really pleased with it. If you're starting a new lawn, I could use it as my seed, just the same, and start over again. I mean, that's another option. But I think starting to use it as an overseed, it's just another option to the one we've always had, which is a Pacific Northwest Seattle shade and sun mix. Same idea. I think if I had deep dark shade, this is going to be my better choice. If you've got no sun underneath trees and you really want to fill it in with a thicker turf, I'm going straight to that Black Beauty without any doubt whatsoever. Either one of them are going to do both with the sun, part shade, all the rest of it. You can pick either one. But I think that Black Beauty might be the superior choice for an absolute shade area, like deep dark shade. Yes.
How much will a 1 pound bag cover?
So I put it on the sheet there because that way you got something to remember when you go home instead of calling me or emailing me, right?
Okay.
So if we look at a lawn, let's say we thatched, and I'm looking at, some dirt, and I'm looking at a little bit of grass poking through. I can't tell you exact per pounds, but typically for me, it's maybe 2-3 pounds at the most of overseed for 1,000 square feet. It's not a lot of seed. This is a pound here. I mean, you don't need a lot of seed. It goes a long ways. If I have no grass and I'm starting over, I just bought a house and I'm doing my own lawn, it's probably twice that much, 5-6 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Okay, and that's either one. Won't change with either one. I should say, who's mowed their lawn so far? I got mine for the first time last week. And it doesn't really need it too crazy yet, but it's coming. Now we're starting to get warmer temperatures. It's going to start growing. If you're going to do the thatching, scalp it down. So, I mean, if you're like, next weekend, I'm going to go get my machine, and I'm going to get this done and get working on the fun part, cut it way down to the lowest setting. I want to leave as little grass as I can on there to start with. Then I can thatch. I'll have a little less debris to clean up. But thatch as a rule. I mean, I don't care about this. I'm attacking the soil level. I want all the junk scraped up, all the old dead grass, the old blades, everything. Who mulch mows? Anybody? I do half and half. If you mulch mow, that builds up on the soil, and yes, some of it degrades into fertilizer. The county's not lying to you, but the majority of it doesn't. And so one time a year, I'm able to press the reset button, get all that crap out of there, and I've got brand new, and off we go again, okay? So overseed goes on. At that point, we're going to go fertilizer and lime. I don't need to do this in 3 days. I can go bam, bam, bam. I got buckets. I do it by hand, and I do it all in the same day, one after another. So I put seed down, done. Lime down, done. Organic lawn food, done. Organic lawn food does not burn seed. Okay, if I go buy Scott's, I go buy a synthetic fertilizer, I can't do it this way. I got to be really careful what I put on fresh grass seed or I will burn it and it will never grow. Anybody who planted seed down and said, I got nothing out of it before? I have a couple times. And that's probably too much nitrogen, or we let it dry out, the birds got some, and there's a few different reasons. But typically to me, it's because there's the wrong fertilizer got put down. If you have a seed and sod starter, sometimes those are synthetic even, no nitrogen in that, much more phosphorus, potassium, I'm okay. But to me, the easiest answer is always just get organic lawn food. It's gentle green, it's easy to use, doesn't hurt anything at all, and I will never burn my seed, okay? So I can put seed down, my organic lawn food down, and my lime, boom, 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 and all that's on the surface now, ready to go. What I think the last step of this that most people don't do is cover it. I'm not bringing in soil. I'm putting a little tiny dusting over the entire lawn. You're helping to build your soil up for the future, but you're covering that seed. We have rain. I don't think I'm going to have a news flash for anybody. We got plenty of rain coming the next couple months like we always do. But last week, we got pretty tidy for a few days. It felt like spring. It wasn't 80, but it was 60, felt like 80, right?
Yeah.
It sure did to me. I got to get working on the farmer tan already. So if we got sun out and we dry that seed out that's germinating, you got to start all this over again and put seed down again. So please get top coat right here or compost. Those are both on special here for the class. Get what you need to cover that seed. Sometimes you can get away with the top coat here is the same exact thing as compost, but it's filtered more. So if I cracked that bag of top coat, dumped it out, you would probably pick it up and go, that is the most beautiful compost I've ever seen in my life. It is super fine grade, no wood chunks at all. I could probably get that through an old peat moss spreader, essentially, and broadcast it that way. I got 2 big buckets, and it doesn't take as long as you think. Probably an hour or so for me in 2,000 square feet. I just dump it in my buckets and walk around and just shake it over everything. I just want to start in the corner and cover all the lawn area, whether I seeded it or didn't seed it. I'm going to cover the whole thing with about a 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch, or 1/4 inch of that dusting. That's going to lock my seed down, keep it wet, and hopefully keep the birds from taking most of it. They can have a few, I'm fine with that, but I don't have to do it again, kind of thing. I'm telling you, if you don't cover it, sometimes you get away with it. I drive around and I see someone who just did exactly what I'm talking about and threw his seed out, and I see in my neighborhood, I can see the grass seeds right on the soil surface. And I always hope, like, damn, I hope the sun doesn't come out for one day where it just starts to grow and it gets dry, because then we got to go do it again. It just won't germinate. So that compost is a great way to keep it wet. So we've got seed, food, lime, top dress, and we got brand new grass. I mean, you will be shocked. Nothing makes me happier. Probably 10 or 20 of you will come back here in June and go, man, I was at your boring lawn seminar on lawn, and I can't tell you how nice my grass looks here for the summer. It looks so much better than it ever has, because if you do these things, it will make a huge difference. I'm no different than you. I do exactly the same thing I'm trying to talk you folks into doing. I had the house for 5 years in Everett. I tried to fix it. I tried this. I tried that. It was never going to get any better until I started over. And now for 20 years, I've done nothing except this same process, spring and fall. And it's getting that easy. Yeah.
I'm a little bit overwhelmed with a number of different things you talked about. Would you run through the steps, like
Yeah.
just a word?
Well, and again, take the sheet, because this will go through. We're going to do moss first, then we're going to kill our weeds, then we're going to choose if we're going to aerate and or thatch. I hope you thatch. I don't know that anybody's got to aerate. And then once all that's cleaned up and in the yard waste, I've got a clean slate to start over. Now I can go seed, lime, organic food, and my top dress. If I aerate, I'm going to have some plugs to fill, so my little 1/8 of an inch dusting is not going to do it. I need to fill that before I go do those steps. Is that making sense? Because we don't want to leave the plugs out there. We want those raked up as well, okay? So that should get you going right through. I'm telling you, if you do this, you'll get to the summer and you'll be like me. I can walk out every couple weeks with my iron spray and just get a couple weeds that are starting off and have a pretty weed-free lawn. Right now, today, if we were at my house, and I'm not lying or trying to brag or anything, I could probably find 12 little weeds in my entire 3 lawns, front yard, backyard, middle yard, because I've done this for a number of years. It will get better if you put some time in now. It will get better. It will not get worse, okay? All right. So I think we've covered food, top dress, lime. Like I mentioned with the lawn food, you know, this is not going to be my lawn food substitute. I'm just talking for me. I think some people could use this as both if we're not going to seed again. The corn gluten will be a nice natural organic fertilizer and a pre-emergent weed killer. But to me, it's always a spoma, or we'll have more in again now. They've got a label issue with the state of Washington, I hate to say. But typically our best lawn food on the market is E.B. Stone's Nature's Green. I have a couple bags in there. This is just as good, and it's a little bigger bag, too, if you've got some more yard. But either one of those two would be my go-to lawn food. This would be the supplement, okay? Never going to burn grass with organic, and I can probably keep the weeds down a little better with that corn gluten, okay? Yes?
I was just curious, after you've done all your steps
Yep.
to get your lawn,
Yep.
do you water your lawn down after you've composted?
It probably depends on which week you do. I mean, I think some people are like, I'm going to do it today. The sun's out, which is fine. If it is sunny and it is looking like the next day is sunny, I will probably wet it down. I'm not going to flood it. I'm not soaking it. If we flood it, you're going to have roughs and seeds going to fly away. We just want to wet it down. That's why I love those two things and not peat moss. Please don't get peat moss. It takes nitrogen out of your soil. Okay, so compost is a far superior seed cover or the top coat. If I put that down and it's dry, it looks brown. If it's not, it's dark brown to black. And so it's really easy to come home from work the next week and look out and go, oh yeah, everything still looks wet. I'm good to go. Maybe the sun comes out for a couple days. You come home, you're like, yeah, it looks a little light. I can just lightly wet it down again to keep that compost cover wet, and then I'm still fine. We don't need to soak it. You know, if you had anybody got a fancy irrigation system for their lawn, I kind of wish I did sometimes. You know, that might be like not 5 minutes, but I turn it on for like a minute and just let everything lightly get misted and wet it down, and I'm good to go. Same reason. Okay. All right. So the lawn food, just keep that in mind, because you can read the thing I wrote about food, but I think you're going to see much less money spent on your end. Sometimes you look at organic lawn food and you're like, God, $45, $50 for a bag. Then you think back at probably the chain store, the Scotts. I don't know what they put it on special for this year because I try to ignore it, but it might be $15, $20. And it's like, well, that's a lot of money. Well, I found with the synthetics, because I used to have my backyard stripes. I tried every lawn food. How does this do? How does that do? How does that do? That's why I got rid of the rest except for organic. So you're going to feed less. My lawn last year, I fed one time, and I did it on purpose because I wanted to see what would happen. So I put this down in spring, never had to feed it again the entire year. And I'm not saying you will have to do it that way, but the most you're ever going to do this is probably once in March, once in midsummer, and the most important food is coming into winter. So if you're going to do it 3 times at the most, I think if we buy, I sometimes call it lawn crack, we buy the synthetic, we do this every 6 weeks, and then we see it grow like gangbusters, and then it crashes, and then we put it down, and the cycle never ends. Who likes to mow their lawn? I do a little bit, but not that much. So I mow more. I've got to go out every single week like, oh God, it's just growing like crazy. Whereas organic's just the same gentle, green, slow, nice color the entire year. I mean, I think you'll be pleased with the difference. If you do the math out, you know, I do this 2 or 3 times a year. I do the other one 6 times a year. I think you're going to spend the same amount of money anyway, and you're going to get a better quality fertilizer that's going to help build your soil structure too. Okay? All right. I'm done preaching on organic food. So Lyme we got covered. You asked about disease already, and this is kind of where we get into maybe not everybody has to do these last 3 things. So disease is number 1. Now, with lawns, we call it thatch disease. So there's that same word, thatch. What's going to happen if I thatch my lawn? I'm getting rid of the old thatch, and I'm probably getting rid of my thatch problems, which could be disease, red thread, dollar spot, snow mold. We can go on and on. Everybody has it. Don't feel like you're the special one in the neighborhood because you walk out and see some red thread coming out of winter. I'll raise my hand too. I got some right now. You know, if you walk on it, I get footprints of it. You put your mower on it, you've moved it all the way across the turf. So think about it before, look real carefully and go, okay, I see some browny areas. Usually they're kind of patchy, not a huge massive area, but kind of circular or patchy in look. I could easily treat that before I do any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Get this sterilized so I don't have the spores, because if I mow, I'm just taking the spores and look here, you go ahead and take over my whole lawn, because now I just moved the spores everywhere. That's why I don't like lawn mowing services. He's down the road at Mrs. Johnson's house. She's got red thread. He puts his mower on her yard, drives up the street, throws it out on your yard. Guess what you got now? You've got red thread just like she does. So try, sterilize your mower, clean your blade up. Do stuff like that will help you get started. Wheels, all of it. Flip it upside down. Trust me, if you want to stay clean, try to sterilize it to go into each season for sure, at least once. If you don't have, thatch disease, great, good on you. You're probably better than the most of us, but everybody who's got a little shade, a little moisture, it's inevitable in Washington. At some point in the winter, we get a little bit of that, blows it in the wind, finds a spot in our grass, and off we go. Now, we can treat it a bunch of different ways. We can guess it's chemical, okay? There's nothing organic about infused, but if I had a really bad batch of this may be the way to go. I could put this in my spreader. This bag covers a massive amount of square footage, and that will kill the spores and get it clean. If I had a dog, my kids, they're not going out in the yard that day. I'm putting that down, and nope, we're not going out in the grass today, because you don't want that on on feet, shoes, all the rest of it, than coming into the house later. So we get it something like Infuse. That would be the systemic or chemical way to attack it down at the thatch layer. We put that on there. It sits there, burns all the spores out, and then again, we kill the disease. I think this sometimes is easy for folks, and I certainly wouldn't talk you out of that. For me, looking out and seeing a patch here and one there and one there, I don't really, again, it's the same discussion as the weed and feed. I don't need to put that over my entire lawn when I'm only worried about 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 patches of it. I would rather get a liquid spray that I can go out and just wet those areas down and make sure I'm clean. If I had a patch this big, I'm probably not going to spray just that circle. I'm going to go out around it a little bit more to make sure, because you can't see the spores, and it's traveling. This is the time of year where they're moving. It warms up, it's wet, it's humid, it's just going to keep growing until we have larger patches that have been killed out, kind of thing. If we thatch and spray and thatch and overseed, there's no residual whatsoever. I could get brand new grass growing right in that same spot, and it looks like you put it in fresh. Yes.
So, in line with what you said about sterilizing your lawnmower, so if you're
Yep.
thatching, would you sterilize that thatcher before you use it, or
If-
you don't have to worry about this?
If I rented it, they clean it. I should say the shops I go to, they're spotless when I pick it up. They make you clean it before you bring it back. If you pick it up and it's got a bunch of dirt, grass blades underneath it, yeah, I'd turn it over in my driveway, wash it out real quick, and make sure we're okay.
So is that just water? You hit it with bleach? Or
Well, water would wash it. If you're going to sterilize it, yeah, it'd be bleach, rubbing alcohol, something real quick that we can spray, sterilize it, wash that off, and then off we go. Yeah, make it easy.
Question.
So, yeah,
You said if you have a commercial lawn service.
Yeah.
So say I do have a
Yeah.
commercial lawn, what do I do?
ask him. Say, hey, I was at Trevor's Boring Lawn Seminar here a couple weeks ago, and he gave me an idea. When you cut the neighbor's grass, do you clean the mower before you come to my yard? Just ask him.
Yeah. Well, no,
See what he
I'm sure
says.
he does.
Yeah, so I see a lot of them do. I'm not saying they're all bad. I see others that just speed mow,
Yeah.
And it's more the commercial guys probably than residential, I think, that are a little less careful, should we say.
Okay. So then if
So
I
just
want to
ask
make
him.
my lawn better,
Yeah.
are you saying that I need to mow it myself?
No, I'm not saying that. The lawn service is a usable thing. If you want to have them come mow, but I would ask the question like, hey, could you please make sure before you go from her yard to my yard or his yard to my yard, can you make sure the lawnmower's clean and sterilized? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure he's clean. He probably does, but it would help. Any
Okay.
chances? Okay. So the last three, if we're talking about turf disease, so these are the things that I'm playing around with. Well, these two right here. So first off, again, speaking as the golfer again real quick, this is the time of year, I know my course has already done this twice. Most places will spray with copper. So again, this is classified as a natural fungicide. It's not systemic. As long as I didn't live on the water, I feel totally comfortable with using this. It isn't going to hurt anything else in my soil. But this is a great killer of all disease. So if I apply this on my turf and wet it all down, you will do the same thing as you would with that Infuse if we spray with a good copper fungicide, okay? So that's option one. The two natural organic things are going to be neem oil. Who's been using neem oil? We use this on everything. I just sprayed houseplants this morning with neem oil. Our roses get neem oil. Everything here is neem oil because this doesn't hurt anything. And they're finding out now that it does work very well on a lot of turf issues as well. So this is one I'm playing around with last fall. I'll do it again this spring, but I've had really good luck so far with just straight neem oil. This one sounds the worst, but it's probably the best. This is called Revitalize, and they call this a biofungicide. It sounds kind of nuclear, doesn't it? So it's like, well, I don't want that in my yard. Well, this is what it is, a biofungicide, totally organic. This is a bacillus that eats fungus. So if I spray this on my rose, my vegetable garden, my lawn, I used to put it on my entire yard on occasion. This keeps all disease down, period. And it's all natural. This doesn't hurt anything at all. So Revitalize would be the totally organic way to go, or neem if we did not want to use any chemical to suppress the thatch disease. Yes?
Would you put that down before you plant your garden?
No, that's more of a foliage applicant. So not worry about the soil as much. This would be like all the vegetable seedlings are in, and I want to maintain not having disease. I would stay ahead of it by using something like that every couple of weeks and never have any issues in the first place. If I wait till my rose, my cucumber, whatever it is covered in mildew and black spots, it's not going to do me as much good. It's going to keep it from getting worse, but it's not going to fix my problem. Okay? Yes?
I was wondering, last year I had some orange spots on my
Okay.
grass. Is that
Ru-
overwatering? Is
That's-
that a fungus?
Yeah, that's rust probably if we had
Yeah.
orange.
Yeah.
But that's the same idea as our red thread, all the thatch type diseases or blade diseases like rust. All these would take care of them, whether we do infuse or the liquid sprays, you would keep that to a minimum. If it popped up in the summer, probably last year was maybe a little worse than some that I saw around just because of the way the weather pattern went. But if you're going to keep it away from there, a little bit of spraying would probably help you. It's not the plague. It probably not can kill the grass. But if you, it sounds like you might be a little OCD like me, I don't want to look out and look at orange spots. So we cut it down, spray it, and then we should be okay when we flush with the grass.
And that would be used on that fungus.
The copper, if you got rust in particular, that'd probably be the first thing I'd go to is that copper fungicide. Yeah, same thing. Okay? So we did a little bit of disease. Crane fly is the other evil creature we get in. This is a hard one to tell you, to tell you verbally, but I've already had 5 or 6 people this week bring the phone in. Here's my lawn. What do you think it is? I can guess from a picture, but the only way we're going to diagnose crane fly is we get a square shovel, we dig down 6 to 8 inches, dig up a little square, flip it over on its side out of the hole, and just gently look through the root layer. You're going to find the crane fly larvae in there. If I go to a dead brown patch, right at the edge perhaps, where it's getting towards more green grass, and I look at that, you will find the larvae. They're always here in the fall, they're always here in the spring. If you know the little creature, it looks like kind of mosquito on steroids mixed with a daddy long-legged spider.
Yeah.
She's skimming along the grass in the fall and just plugging eggs everywhere because her little youngs eat grass roots. So if I look out at a big lawn area and I just see a random big patch of brown that maybe wasn't that way a year ago, it's almost always either thatch disease or I've got crane fly eating away at my root system. Both are very fixable. We don't have to dig up the whole soil and start over again, but we need to do something about it or it's just going to get worse as the season goes on, okay? So if you want to bring a piece in, I'll look at it with you. If you want to dig up a little square, play scientist and find those little grubs, you can see them, pictures of them on all the packages. If I get this is what we do for crane fly anyway. So this is a really cheap application called 8. This is all about soil, not about anything above ground. But if I put this in my spreader, I want this, this is one I want to do on a rainy day because I want Mother Nature to wash it down the soil for me. You'll see, those are your little grubs right there. They're usually kind of grayish, sometimes a light tan. They're maybe about that big curled up, but you'll start finding those if you look. Then we can nuke them out of there with something like 8, okay? Yes? Yeah. If you have the crane fly and you know you do, I would get this right up towards the top of the table. We want to get this down the soil, then we can thatch and do all the stuff we did before. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, if we have thatch disease or crane fly larvae, either one of those two, I could easily kind of move those up towards the beginning because, again, I just don't want people to waste their money. And if I put this down and then I go thatch the next day, I just chewed up most of my 8 and threw it in the yard waste. Is that making sense? So as long as I know that it's gotten its job done, I can immediately go to the next step. Oh, if you either water it in, you're done in a day, or you let really good rainstorm, you're done in a day. If it just sits there and it's dry for a couple days, it's going to take probably a week to get down into the soil that way. Oh yeah, perfect. Let it soak in. Yeah, exactly. Yep, let it soak in, exactly. Okay, so we got a little crane fly. The last one is our friend Mr. Mole. You know, and I'll just chuckle as I talk about moles because it always makes me laugh. It's actually technically illegal to trap or kill a mole in the state of Washington, which always makes me laugh. I don't think the sheriff's going to come to your house and give you a ticket for using. So I can have a mole trap you can buy a mole trap, but you're not supposed to use the mole trap. Figure that out. So either way. So moles, to me, it's going to be up to you on how far you want to take this battle, because I've been blue in the face before. I've smiled about it other times. I mean, I don't know how mad you are when it comes down to it. So I would always start with this process. If we're trying to eradicate a mole, he's probably there because there's something to eat, first of all. So if I get rid of my grubs, the crane fly larva, that kind of stuff, maybe he heads towards the Mrs. Johnson's and I don't have to see him anymore either way, okay? So I might always start with, let's eliminate the food source kind of as phase one, okay? Phase two is, maybe I want to just send him gently to the neighbor's house and don't tell her kind of thing. So we buy something like Molemax, okay, which is this. This is castor oil. It's all natural. It's not going to hurt anything. You're not. Maybe you want to kill the mole. This is not going to kill the mole, okay? But if I put this down, this is a tiny little drop of castor oil. It's encapsulated in a little tiny particle of clay so that it lasts a while. This is not the same as going to the drugstore and pouring castor oil over anything. It's a little bit different. So the mistake is, I think, when people buy this, because it does work great. It worked for me years ago, and I haven't had one. I'm knocking on wood. I haven't had one back for about 8 years now. So if you get this down, the key is look where he's active. Where do I see holes? Where is he actively moving and digging? Whether it's in the lawn or a landscape bed, and that's where I put it down. I don't cover my whole yard. I cover a third of it. So I go, okay, I can see you hanging out here. I'm covering this. I wait a week. Now I go another third. And I wait another week, and I go all the way to the edge. And hopefully by then he's hanging out at the neighbor's house. And you don't have to admit that it came from you. So the mistake is people put the whole bag down. If I'm a little mole and you covered everything with castor oil, every direction I try to go, I got the same smell. I just stay where I am. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, so we got to try to work him towards the perimeter and get him the heck out of our lawn and get him to the neighbor's lawn. And you win. So Molemax and these is kind of the other thing we like here. Anyone tried these sonic spikes?
They don't work.
Okay, so this is where we get half the people are like the best thing on earth, the other half are like, what a waste of money. So I've seen these work. I've seen other moles come up and literally where this is in the ground, they dig the spike up and say, yeah, nice try. So I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I've had a lot of people, particularly with property out towards Snohomish, come back and say, I did it, I got him out, I can see him at the neighbors now going to town. They put these along their fence or perimeter and didn't get him back in. This is not probably going to get a mole out of your lawn. I do not think that's the nature of this product. I think it's like, you know, a lot of people call and say, I had my nice piece of quiet with Greenbelt. Some developer just bought the piece of land now. Now I got a 3-story apartment going in there. He's chewing up all the land. The trees are coming down. And guess what's coming in? All the critters that were living in that Greenbelt area. Yeah. This might be a decent try, a barrier. Or again, put a strip of that Molemax around that area. And hopefully that smell as it keeps in the soil will keep them from coming in the first place. We only do battery. I don't probably have to tell you how solar doesn't usually work quite as long up around here. So these are the battery ones. And again, it's not for everybody. I was expecting about 50-50 because I've had some people swear by them. Other people are like, biggest waste of money I've ever spent. I'll never buy that thing again. So there's the one right back there. So I'm not going to do that again. Oh, I did? Chatter. The chatter. Yeah, the little chatterbox on them. Okay, so we got those. Now phase 3 is war is on. Okay, so if you want to get something that'll make him bleed or cut a tail off, there's a trap in there. We can give you a demo if you want, but again, it's all about placement. You've got to find the active area and get it right there with the good bait. I think we've tried everything from poison worms to peanut butter to everything. You can probably look on the internet and come up with 50 different things you can put in your mole trap. But we don't do gassers. We don't do this. My dad will probably watch this, so I'll throw him under the bus next week. So it's not my childhood at the farm where he can pull the 67 Mercury wagon, put the exhaust pipe in the molehill and kill everything. You don't have to go quite that far, but you can look around. There's lots of options out there, and I hate to say, creatures are somewhat smart to some. What's going to work for you is not going to work for you. Work for him is not going to work for the next gentleman. So try a couple different things and you can win. You don't have to live with the molehills all the time, all right? So the last couple things on there, you know, again, I just hope people try to keep pets, wildlife safe, use as much organic stuff as you can. I mean, a lot, if you're starting this from scratch and you have a lot of issues, you know, you can make some choices and use the chemical and then walk away. I mean, it's very easy to spot spray versus doing something in a bag, and we can get it to square one, and now we can do the right way, okay? For good lawns, we always need 6 to 8 inches of soil, okay? I can't fix your problem if you bought the house. Every single one of the new homes over here about 5 years ago came over the next year, said, why is my grass all dying? Because the contractor will turn your land into concrete with his excavators. They'll put 2 inches of black dirt on top, lay sod out. Looks great first year, and then nothing, because there's nowhere for the roots to grow. So that's what I did 20 years ago. Tear the whole thing up, rototill, de-rock. You would not believe how many rocks I got in my yard. And then built the soil up so that I don't ever have to do it again. Am I telling you to go home and destroy your whole lawn? I'm not going to say that. But at some point, you got to make a choice. Like, I want that grass, but I have this soil. We got to fix it. I mean, it's just not going to get any better until we get that good soil level in there. If you were starting from scratch, that's what we need. A good 6 to 8 inch base that drains well, has got good content in it. We could have some clay and some other junk underneath that. That's fine, but that's going to keep my grass happy through the growing season, okay? You can see the seed. I would always do seed, but then I'm a poor nurseryman, so I'm not going to spend a fortune on sod. Some people like the instant gratification of sod. You do you. I just think sod, you inherit that fiberglass mesh for all eternity. I've had a lot of friends that wanted grass now, selling the house, whatever it is. They put sod down. 2 years later, like, dude, how am I ever going to get rid of this? You're not going to get rid of it, because if you tried to rototill or till it up, it's just fiberglass mesh through everything when you do sod. So it's also probably, I could probably seed a lawn for $100, and I'd probably spend $5,000 to do the same thing with sod. So if you want to save some money and you can wait, you know, grass is a resilient creature. This isn't like, I got to wait till next year. It's like a week, I got peach fuzz. 2 weeks, I got grass. A month later, you're like, oh, wow, I got lawn. I mean, it's not like you're waiting forever, especially if you do it here going into the early springtime, okay? Humic acid is the one organic ingredient in all the organic lawn foods, all the organic foods that we carry for all plants. That is the essential ingredient that makes everything happen in soil chemistry. If I don't have humic acid, I don't have the proper bacteria, I don't have them breaking down the food so my grass can eat it, my blueberry can eat it, all the rest. So you get that with organic fertilizers. You do not get that with synthetic stuff. So that's a key thing, I think, with going organic, okay? And hopefully the last one, I won't say it again, just try to eliminate the weed and feed. I'm going to get the state to ban that someday. Maybe someday in my lifetime there'll be no more weed and feed. So I think they're trying, but I don't think the companies with more money than I will probably end up winning, right?
On your grass seed,
yeah,
is that like ryegrass or?
So both of these grass seeds, you're always, in the Northwest, it's always going to be a mixture of perennial rye and some fescue.
Okay.
It's never going to change no matter what kind, what brand, anything you buy is going to have those two in it, okay? It's just a matter of what strain is it. Is it a tall fescue, short fescue, chewing fescue, creeping fescue, and what kind of rye is in there? So Oregon is grass capital of the world, I'll tell you right now. I mean, it is massive business in Willamette Valley. The majority of the grass seed for the entire country is produced between Portland and Eugene. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. That's where Jonathan Green is. That's where we get all of our stuff right down in the Northwest. So they test things. What do I grow? How is it disease resistant? How does it do wet winter is a big one for us. We would have totally different mixture in Eastern Washington or the Midwest or the Southeast. We would have totally different grass mixtures than we have up here because we're cool, we're wet, we have different winter temperatures. All that matters for the strain of seed. We go down the south, we got Bermuda grass or zoysia grass or things that we would never be able to grow up here. I'm a little bit different, okay? But it's always going to be fescue ryegrass. Yes.
What are your thoughts on the
Milorganet's great. You know, I don't have a problem with that at all. I've used it before. You know, we've thought about getting that in here, to be honest with you. I don't have a problem with that at all. That's a good product for lawn for sure. Yes.
When is the right time in this process to put rub killer down?
Rub killer down. So again, if I know that I have either thatch disease or I have crane fly larvae, maybe confirm that first. The beginning of that list, moss, weeds, disease, crane fly, all that stuff gets taken care of first before I get to my thatching. Okay? Yeah. Yes.
So what do? We bought our home like 12 years ago, and they did what you described, scrape off,
Yeah.
and then they put in a lawn.
Yeah.
So now our lawn doesn't have enough topsoil,
Yeah,
but
grow.
we can't
Yeah.
dig all that out.
Yeah.
Do we put dirt over it?
Top dressing will help keep building it up as it gets older,
So
but again, I can't go put 3 inches of dirt on top of it. You're going to kill your grass.
Right.
So you're talking about maybe half an inch or an inch every year. Then it just
Okay.
keeps getting up a little bigger, and that continues to build my soil structure.
So we put that
It'll be a little heavy.
couple inches or inch on,
Inch.
and then we seed over that.
And then you can seed over that, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and that'll keep building it up as you go. Thatch first, but then
Okay.
do add a little bit more soil there to keep building up. But don't bury it. Be real careful. Don't
Okay.
want to bury it. Before we keep doing questions here, I'm here all day. But let me just say before we break out, you know, this is probably the gold mine for sale day with classes. If you're doing any of this stuff or you're planning on it, everything up here is 20% off. So you told me you're at the class, food, lime, mold stuff, seed, sprays, all of it. So there's no exception, including the soil, which we hardly ever do the soil on as well for top dress. So I see the smart students at the lawn class will go, all right, I need 3 bags of that to last me the year. Get them all because you get the discount. You're going to save some serious money on getting your supplies all set up. Even if you're not going to do this for a week or two, I'm leaving, whatever, it's not warm enough, whatever it is, you can still do this. You got probably March is ideal to say to mid-April. You can still do it after that, but you're going to have to water probably a little bit more. That's the biggest difference. We're a little bit warmer, but you're going to have to water a little bit to get that grass seed going. Okay? So, so today, all the way through Friday, you got all week. So through Friday and next week. Okay? And if you probably came to me in 2 weeks and said I was at your boring lawn class, I'll probably go tell the cashier to give you the same discount. Okay, there you go. Everything's in the store. If it looks like something ran out, ask or I'll run in there because we have lots. I got stuff stashed everywhere. This is a class. We typically, a lot of lawn food, a lot of everything we talked about, people tend to grab just to get their whole thing set up for the season. Then you're good to go. Yes.
My lawn is lumpy.
Okay.
Will thatching take care of that?
It will help. It will help level a little bit. Is it earthworm castings? You got little earthworms
No,
popped up?
it's a mistake I made.
You got bumpy?
Yes.
Well, you might want to thatch it. Maybe you go down to the rental store at the same time and get a roller. So you get a metal drum. It's not very heavy until you fill it full of water. But you plop that down, fill it full of water, put the cork in, and you can push that and mow your lawn with it. Cross, diagonal, and straight. And that will help, again, even it out a little bit.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. Yes.
How did you get rid of your dirt for your lawn? You have to-
Well, when I started over again, I mean, this was like, I made the choice, was like, all right, I'm done with it. It was about midsummer. I spent 4 weekends in August. It took me 4 weekends, entire weekends. And I literally rototilled, picked rocks, crawled around for days. Rototilled again, brought in soil, picked rocks for days. I mean, it did probably 3 rototills, and I probably brought in 6 inches of really good 3-way compost, sand. Usually it's got a little fine bark in it or topsoil, but that built it up. Then it was rolled day after day to get it firm. Then I did exactly the same things here. What's that? You don't have to get a, giant rototill. They got some pretty small ones too. You could probably rototill, but it might be one of those things. If you're really going to do this, maybe you get a company and say, "Hey, I'll clean it up and I can do this. Could you come run the machine and just rototill this up for me?" Because I'll tell you, sod takes absolutely eons to biodegrade. So if you're going to do this over again, leaving your dead or half dead grass where it is and putting soil on top of it, doing that is not going to fix your problem. It's still got that barrier. It's not going to root down. So if we're really going to get it out of there, we're going to get a sod cutter or we're going to roll-a-till, and we're going to get rid of that entire thick mat of roots and then build the soil up afterwards. Okay? Yep. I'm going to say it's a fun project, but it takes a while to start over again. It really does. But if the soil's the problem, that's what's going to fix it forever. It's not going to change until we get the soil fixed. Okay? All right, so hopefully if you do a little shopping in there, like I said, just tell them you're at the class. They hit a button on the register, and you got 20% off everything, and you got all week through Friday for it. And if you come down later, you can probably talk me into it too, right? All right, thanks for coming.